My name is Grace. I'm working as a speech pathologist, but my background is actually steeped in the humanities. My background is in linguistics, which is actually a less common career path for speech therapists than you might think. And I came about it kind of a convoluted way. But when I first started studying linguistics, I was really interested in language change, and I was really interested in understanding kind of social meaning and social use of language and how people use language to connect. And in my career, of course, now I work with people who have communication disorders, communication problems. And it's just kind of been interesting for me to see the ways in which social meaning in language, social use in language, tend to emerge when you're working with somebody who has a communication disorder or something special or something different about the way that they communicate and the way that they use language to connect with other people. In particular, I had a patient an adult patient who was nonverbal on the autism spectrum and had some other kind of developmental differences going on. In addition to that, everyone, including her family, her parents, thought that she was nonverbal. When she was a teenager, somebody finally thought to hand her an alphabet board or a communication board, which some people are familiar with a communication system like this from the book or the film, The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. That's a lot of people's point of reference for a communication system like this. And so she could start communicating using that, would just point at the letter that she wanted and could communicate or could write using that communication board. But as she got more comfortable with it as time went on, she started to write poetry, and she wrote these beautiful poems that, in some of which she's published. And, I just thought about this person who for the first 15 years of her life was unable to connect with people in that way, and what a rich inner life she really has, and how much is going on that, it just took the right therapist at the time, who wasn't me, I worked with her later, but the right therapist to help her find a way to connect with other people. And, in my career, I also work with people with aphasia, people who sometimes can't speak or can't write, and I work to find communication systems with them. And a lot of the time they have other serious medical issues going on, but my strongest impression working with people with communication disorders is that in terms of quality of life, not being able to communicate with another person, not being able to connect in a meaningful way, communicatively, whether that's verbal or nonverbal, is the most isolating circumstance that a person can be in. In some ways, I think it's even more damaging than being really physically debilitated. And, even though I'm in a very clinical setting and a clinical job now, I think the background of everything that I do comes from just kind of having become so fascinated with the idiosyncrasies and the complexities and the creativity that's inherent to the way that people use language and the ways that people communicate. And they're very diverse, and they're very individual, and just kind of finding ways to help people not become isolated and withdrawn because they have trouble with that. That's, why I do what I do every day.